There are two words you see a lot in the Russian papers this morning following Putin's visit to China: strategic partnership. Nezavisomaya Gazeta writes, the fact that Xi gave his guest a hug wasn't simply a gesture of friendship. It was a sign to the West that its attempts to force Beijing to end its support for Moscow are in vain. The headline in the Russian government paper: two flags on Mars. Apparently Vladimir Putin likes the idea of one day unfurling the Russian and Chinese flags on the red planet. But let's come back down to earth for a moment, because for all the talk of eternal friendship between Moscow and Beijing, it's not all plain sailing. The headline in Moskovsky Komsomolets today: China is an extremely complicated partner. A China expert tells the paper that the volume of Chinese investments is barely rising. Several reasons are given for this. Here's one. China likes to invest in transport infrastructure, like railways, but on condition that it controls them. Russia won't agree to that. Generally, public opinion in China today is pro-Russian, but there are things which openly disappoint the Chinese. For example, they believe that we cannot manage our economy properly and our resources, financial, natural or human resources. You often hear the Chinese saying, "Let us come over, build you roads, housing, factories, sort out the management." They don't understand some of our nuances. And that's not all. Chinese banks halting settlements with Russia has left a bad taste. There's a simple explanation. Chinese banks are worried about secondary sanctions. Also, Russia risks becoming too dependent on the Chinese economy. If, in the next 5 to 7 years, Russia fails to reindustrialize and boost producibility, it will have to permanently buy equipment in China. And finally, when the Chinese promise a no-limits friendship, and then this rhetoric gets replaced by tough pragmatism, Russian businessmen and politicians start to feel as if they've somehow been deceived. But any expert will remind you that the Chinese always speak pretty words. That's what happens in the East. There is a Chinese proverb: a man without a smiling face must not open a shop. But also, in the Russian mentality, there is some kind of Chinese alarmism, an irrational distrust. I just don't trust them, and that's it. You can see that from what people are writing online, claiming without any evidence that China wants to grab the Russian Far East. Back to Nezavisomaya Gazeta for this. Putin's trip showed that the partnership between Russia and China does have limits. For example, nothing specific was said about when construction will start on the Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline. Russia is very keen on this project, since its gas exports to Europe are rapidly declining.